What happens when powerful voices decide whose opinions deserve to exist and whose don't? What happens when creators, especially female voices, start disappearing from platforms? Not because of violations, but because someone with far more power decided they were inconvenient. This isn't fiction. It's not the plot of a drama. It's real. And it's happening now. In one corner of the internet, Candace Owens stands in a courtroom fighting a defamation lawsuit that could define what public discourse looks like in the digital age. Her name alone brings sharp reactions, admiration from some, criticism from others. But right now, what matters most isn't who likes her or who doesn't. It's what's at stake, a case that tests the limits of free speech, influence, and responsibility. In another part of the internet, quieter but no less important, Blake Lively's name is being whispered in online communities, not because of a new film, a fashion campaign, or her always loved red carpet looks, but because YouTubers, TikTok creators, and podcasters, many of them women, are coming forward saying they've been hit with legal threats after discussing her. No hate, no lies, just commentary, speculation, honest, fair analysis, and still copyright claims, takedowns, and even subpoenas. The pattern is unsettling. The silence is louder than the accusations. And here's the thing, most of these women aren't massive influencers. They don't have legal teams. They aren't hiding behind corporations or agencies. They're regular people, creators, reviewers, mothers, students, using their platforms to do what the internet was supposed to be about: express, analyze, question, engage. Now many of them are afraid, not because they did something wrong, but because someone powerful made them feel like they did. This story isn't about political sides. It's not about whether you agree with Candace Owens or whether you love Blake Lively's films. It's about the very real pressure that creators, especially female creators, are facing today. It's about the widening gap between who holds power and who is left unprotected. Ask yourself, what happens when criticism becomes a legal liability? What happens when fair use is no longer fair? When being a female voice online makes you an easier target? What's emerging now isn't just a controversy, it's a warning. In this video, we're going to take you deep into the Candace Owens trial, how it started, what's happening in court, and why the outcome could shift the online world forever. Then we're diving into the allegations swirling around Blake Lively, how they started, what creators are saying, and the eerie pattern of gender in every complaint we've seen. We'll hear from real creators. Some have spoken out, some remain anonymous, afraid of retaliation. We'll also explore the emotional toll of being targeted, the financial strain of dealing with legal claims, and the broader danger these moments present for freedom of expression. Because this isn't just about Candace or Blake, this is about you, the viewer, the creator, the commentator, the person behind a mic, a keyboard, a lens. Because if the line between public accountability and silencing critique continues to blur, who's next? Maybe you've never faced a copyright strike. Maybe you've never received a cease and desist. But in a world where influence outweighs intention, where money shapes the narrative, and where creators are forced to walk on eggshells, your voice might be silenced before it's even heard. But not today. Today we talk about it. So grab a seat, stay with us till the end, and decide for yourself. Are we witnessing a necessary shift toward responsibility, or are we watching the slow erosion of digital freedom, one female voice at a time? Because in the world of clicks, lawsuits, and carefully curated silence, speaking out may just be the most radical act of all. In a year already marked by unexpected twists, controversies, and reckonings within the entertainment and digital spaces, the intersection of legal proceedings, influencer culture, and celebrity accountability is becoming more visible than ever. And right at the center of this swirling storm stands two high-profile names: conservative commentator or Candace Owens and Hollywood A-lister Blake Lively. Though their backgrounds and public personas couldn't be more different, both women now find themselves entangled in highly public legal debates that are drawing increasing scrutiny, not just for what is being said, but for whom these cases seem to disproportionately affect. Let's start with Candace Owens. The political firebrand, known for her often polarizing commentary, is currently navigating a heated defamation trial that has caught the attention of major media outlets. The lawsuit in question was sparked by statements Owens made on social media platforms and during podcast appearances, remarks that the plaintiff argues crossed the line from opinion into deliberate harm. While details of the trial are still unfolding, what's striking is not just the legal dimension of the case, but the cultural undercurrents. It brings forward questions about freedom of speech, responsible discourse, and where public figures must draw the line in a hyper-connected world. In court, Owens has maintained her position that her statements were protected under free speech and rooted in genuine concern over political and social issues. However, the opposition paints a different picture, arguing that her public reach gives her the power to significantly impact lives and reputations, especially when her comments are aimed at individuals who lack the same media clout or platform. As court transcripts are released and expert testimonies begin to surface, it's becoming clear that this isn't just about Candace Owens, it's about setting a precedent for the digital age. But even as Owens faces mounting legal scrutiny, another parallel controversy has surfaced, this one revolving around the beloved actress and activist Blake Lively. Known for her elegance on the red carpet and her witty presence on social media, Lively has long been admired for keeping a relatively drama-free public persona. However, in recent weeks, that image has taken a surprising hit. Allegations have emerged suggesting that Lively or members of her legal team have pursued aggressive legal action, predominantly against female content creators who have discussed her recent projects, public statements, or alleged legal involvement. While there is currently no official lawsuit filed by Lively against any creators, several YouTubers and TikTok commentators claim they've received cease and desist letters, copyright claims, or even subpoenas related to videos they've posted. These creators, many of whom identify as female and work in the commentary, beauty, or film critique space, have voiced concerns that the pattern of takedown attempts feels targeted. Some have gone on record to state that while male creators discussed similar topics, they did not experience the same level of legal pressure. This perceived targeting of women in the content creation space has sparked a wider conversation about gender dynamics in online communities. Several digital rights advocates have begun to speak out, arguing that this kind of pressure could stifle female voices in a space already filled with gender-based challenges for women in the commentary community, especially those without teams of lawyers or corporate backing. Such legal intimidation, regardless of intent, can feel like a silencing tactic. The issue becomes even more complex when we consider the broader implications. In an age where fan commentary, media analysis, and influencer reactions drive much of the online conversation, celebrities interacting with these voices, whether positively or through legal means, create ripple effects. When legal tools are used against smaller creators, it's not just a matter of copyright or defamation. It becomes a question of power dynamics: who has the right to speak and who gets to decide when that speech goes too far. Meanwhile, Blake Lively's representatives have denied any intent to unfairly target specific groups and maintain that any actions taken were based purely on legal merits. They've stated that certain creators crossed professional boundaries or made factually incorrect claims, prompting appropriate legal responses. Still, the fact that the majority of those affected are women hasn't gone unnoticed, and the online reaction continues to grow. Candace Owens and Blake Lively are, on the surface, very different public figures, but their stories now represent a wider cultural reckoning. As public platforms grow more powerful, the line between critique and defamation becomes increasingly blurry. And as celebrities, politicians, and influencers attempt to control their narratives, it's ordinary creators, often women, often independent, who find themselves caught in the crossfire. The internet once promised us freedom, the freedom to create, critique, speak, and question. But for a growing number of female creators, that freedom feels increasingly conditional. And now, as two of the most headline-dominating names, Candace Owens and Blake Lively, find themselves tied to legal controversies, it's the smaller voices who are feeling the impact. Let's return to the courtroom, where Candace Owens sits facing a defamation lawsuit that could have lasting effects on how public figures are allowed to speak about others online. The heart of the case centers on allegations that Owens made statements that were not just controversial but potentially damaging and false. In court, legal experts are dissecting her words, framing them not just as opinions, but potentially as assertions of fact with consequences. What's striking isn't just the courtroom drama, it's the broader implication that many creators are watching closely. If Candace Owens, with her enormous following, is being held accountable for the ripple effect of her words, what does that mean for smaller creators who share stories, opinions, or breakdowns of public news? The concern is real. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are becoming legal gray zones, places where creators are trying to navigate commentary, fair use, and journalistic expression while avoiding the wrath of legal departments and copyright claims. For every established voice that can hire a lawyer or issue a counterclaim, there are thousands of creators walking on a tightrope, hoping not to fall. Which brings us to Blake Lively. Blake has long been admired for her advocacy, elegance, and privacy. But the recent wave of concern isn't about her latest red carpet appearance or upcoming movie. It's about a growing number of female creators saying they've been served legal threats after posting content that referenced her. Take, for example, a mid-level YouTube creator who reviewed a rumor related to Lively's involvement in an upcoming streaming project. Her tone was neutral, the information wasn't malicious. Yet days later she received a takedown notice not from YouTube itself, but from a third-party legal team. Another woman, a podcaster with fewer than 1,000 subscribers, says she received a notice after simply discussing the broader issue of celebrity legal influence. Without even naming Lively directly, these creators aren't household names, they don't have PR agencies or publicists. They often work alone editing videos late at night while balancing full-time jobs or caregiving responsibilities. For them, receiving a legal notice isn't a small inconvenience, it's a threat to their income, reputation, and emotional safety. Even more concerning is the emerging pattern: many of these creators are women. This isn't to say there's confirmed intent behind that pattern, but when enough cases pile up, the silence around it becomes deafening. In private creator groups, the fear is growing. Many have begun quietly deleting videos, altering thumbnails, and changing descriptions, not because they broke rules, but because they're afraid of being next. And that fear is chilling. Some argue that celebrities have a right to protect their image, and they're not wrong. Public figures face constant scrutiny and often false or exaggerated claims. But the issue here isn't protection, it's proportionality. When multi-million-dollar legal machinery is aimed at individuals with little to no defense, the question becomes, is this really about justice or is it about control? Several digital rights lawyers have weighed in, stating that many of these cases could fall under fair use, especially if the content is transformative, commentary-based, or speculative in nature. But in practice, fair use is expensive to defend. Most creators don't get that far. They comply not because they're wrong, but because they can't afford to prove they're right. And for many female creators, the impact is deeply personal. Some say they've lost sponsorships due to fear of ongoing legal issues. Others talk about sleepless nights, anxiety, and a drop in creative confidence. One even shared that she nearly quit her channel entirely after receiving her first cease and desist, something she described as one of the most paralyzing experiences of my life. Behind every username there's a real person, and those people are increasingly feeling the weight of systems not built to protect them. Still, hope persists. A new kind of digital solidarity is beginning to take shape. Creators are forming private support networks, pooling resources and educating each other on their rights. Some have teamed up with nonprofits that offer legal aid for creators, while others are working to bring more attention to the need for clearer laws around fair use and creator protection. And despite the pressure, many are speaking up, not out of anger, but out of a need to be seen, to be heard, to remind the world that being small doesn't mean being silent. So as Candace Owens continues her battle in court and Blake Lively faces scrutiny for how her legal team has responded to commentary, a bigger question hangs in the air. What kind of internet do we want? One where voices are stifled before they grow, or one where responsibility and expression can coexist? We're at a crossroads, and the choices made by powerful people today will shape what the rest of us are allowed to say tomorrow. As the stories of these creators echo across social platforms, the silence from the platforms themselves is increasingly hard to ignore. YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram have become the modern-day public squares, digital stages for creators to speak, grow, and influence. But when creators face legal pressure, platform support is often nowhere to be found. Many content creators targeted in these disputes say their platforms didn't notify them of copyright claims until videos were removed. Others say appeals were denied without full investigation, or worse, that their channels were demonetized or throttled after multiple legal threats. It raises a troubling question: what role should platforms play when creators are being targeted by legal actions, especially when the creators themselves are not breaking rules? In Blake Lively's case, there's no confirmed legal filing in court against any of the creators in question, but the tactics being described: subpoenas, copyright strikes, direct legal threats can have a powerful effect. Without ever stepping into a courtroom, creators feel cornered. They aren't even sure who to turn to. Legal threats are written in complex legalese, often implying that further action could be taken. Many creators delete their content not out of guilt but out of fear, and that fear is corrosive. What's even more concerning is the underlying gender dynamic. In multiple reports from creators, there appears to be a recurring theme: male creators who posted similar content were left untouched, while their female counterparts were flagged or approached by legal teams. While this hasn't been confirmed by official records, the pattern has been called out by several creators, some of whom have documented their experiences through community posts, live streams, and podcasts. One creator described it as legal gaslighting, a term used to describe a process where someone is made to feel as though their perception of reality is exaggerated or invalid, even when they're facing real consequences. She said it felt like I was being told I did something wrong, but when I looked around, I saw others doing the same thing even more intensely. The only difference, they weren't women. This phenomenon, whether intentional or not, speaks to a broader issue of how female creators are treated in the digital world. For years, women on YouTube and other platforms have reported higher rates of harassment, trolling, and unfair scrutiny. Now the concern is shifting to legal intimidation, an area that until recently hadn't been so closely examined. And while Blake Lively herself hasn't publicly responded to the growing number of reports from creators, the silence has been noticed. Silence in the age of transparency is often seen as a message, and for the creators being affected, it feels like that message is clear. Your platform may be public, but your voice is conditional. As Candace Owens' trial continues, observers note how her legal team has used the media spotlight to frame the lawsuit as a battle for freedom of speech. Her supporters argue that public figures are being unfairly censored, while her critics insist that accountability is necessary in a world where misinformation spreads fast and far. But no matter which side you're on, it's impossible to ignore the real-life ripple effect these cases are having on creators online. And while Owens is engaging the system head-on in court under oath, Blake Lively's situation plays out differently. It's quieter, more behind the scenes, but the effect is no less powerful. Multiple creators have said that even mentioning Blake's name in a video title, description, or tag now feels risky. Some are editing out references altogether. Others have chosen to stop covering celebrity news, citing stress, anxiety, and fear of retaliation. The emotional toll of these events is significant. For many women, their platforms are not just hobbies, they are livelihoods. They pay the bills, feed their families, and help build long-term careers. The threat of legal action is not just about silencing a video, it's about jeopardizing an entire way of life. But in the midst of this growing tension, something unexpected is happening: resistance. Across comment sections, Discord servers, and Twitter threads, creators are banding together. They're comparing notes, sharing screenshots, and building timelines. They're asking tough questions, not just about celebrity legal teams, but about platform accountability, gender bias, and freedom of expression. Some have even contacted digital rights organizations, hoping to raise awareness and get support. And slowly the silence is breaking. Several mid-sized YouTubers, many with audiences between 10,000 and 100,000, have begun uploading videos about what's happening. Some are speaking for others who are afraid, others are telling their own stories. The tone is not aggressive, it's careful, emotional, and honest. It's not about cancel culture or online mobs, it's about visibility, empowerment, safety. What these creators want isn't revenge, it's transparency. They want to know why certain creators are being targeted,